one of the things that you've done is use these footnotes very creatively in the book. So tell us about, one of my favorites is there's a footnote, I think, on the word khamba.
Yes.
And of course, on many other things, there's a footnote on 26(7) and so many other things. So just tell us why and how you've used footnotes throughout your book.
Okay, so it started out after I read Discworld, in which Sir Terry Pratchett uses footnotes, and because he has created a whole different world there, right? There are a lot of things in this magical world that require explanation, which would maybe slow down the reader. But what he does is he makes those explanations very interesting and very funny. So you don't really get the sense of the story being disrupted, or even if it is disrupted, you don't mind it too much because it was such a fun aside, right? So I was extremely impressed and very inspired by that, which is why I started doing this whole thing. And so the other reason for that was that there are a lot of experiences that we go through in one part of the country that the other part of the country is completely oblivious to. Right. So because we are, India is essentially a mishmash of several different cultures and several different languages. Naturally, our experiences are very different. Our regional patois is very different. What we call, I know I said patois and all, but but it's difficult to, it's difficult to kind of use those kind of words in your text without an adequate explanation. Like in my last book, I had written rice plate. Right. And a friend of mine who's from Mangalore was like, but what does that mean? What are you talking about? I'm completely in the dark when you're saying rice plate. So I was like, oh, okay. So there are certain things that we take for granted, which, being in Bombay or being in Maharashtra, which, other people are completely unaware about. So, which is why I started doing the footnotes. And like you mentioned, khamba, right? It's, I don't know if teetotalers know what a khamba is, but I felt the need to explain that because it's not, like I said, it's not just liquor or alcohol, right? Khamba is a state of mind. Like it's an entire different kind of alcohol, and I felt that it required its own, explanation. Not glorifying it, but just kind of it had earned its space in print, like so many other words, which is why I thought I will do that. And again, I can't get around not using words like that because, sometimes to create authentic dialogue or characters, you need to put them in situations or, have them use phrases which are regional. And in that sense, I felt that if I'm going to sort of foist that upon my readers, then the least I could do is, give them an explanation, which is where the footnotes came from.
Okay, what does chew mean?
Chew is short for chewtai, which is literally speaking sister sparrow. It's a word that you teach small children. So like a cat is a mau, and a baby sparrow or a little sparrow is chew. And these are the kind of nicknames that Maharashtrian girls usually get. So they get mau, they get chew. For some reason, they get chiku, which means sapota. I cannot account for that. I don't know who first saw actual sapota and said, hey, my daughter looks like that. Like, I don't know. But that was...
I just want to tell my viewers that, this little sarcasm that you're seeing in Veda right now is what Avantika, her protagonist in the book, also has. So, which is why I keep getting the flesh and blood author and the fictional character. I get them mixed up quite a bit.
I like to think that she is a lot more ruthless than me. Honestly, like her sarcasm is like a lot more barbed than mine is. But I guess that's just wish fulfillment. So.
Okay. So you are a fairly young author, and you've really, I think that it's been tough for you to become a published writer because you've done it in addition to looking after a family, doing a full-time job. So I think that's really inspiring, and it's extraordinary. I don't know too many writers who can pull that off. So I just want to know, tell us a little about that experience, and then give some tips to somebody who wants to become a writer like you.
So you make it sound really awesome, but you should know that I have no social life. This is pretty much all that I do. But
Okay. So
yeah,
so those of you who want to become a writer, forget about a social life. Yeah.
No, I mean, if I mean, realistically speaking, if it's family plus job plus writing, you're really not going to have much time left for anything else if those are your priorities. But that being said, I have become increasingly hermitic in my old age. So, maybe that's it. And like there are other authors having lively social lives out there. I don't know about them, but
I just want to interrupt you. So does that mean that you've become a troglodyte?
Not a troglodyte.
A troglodyte is somebody who likes to lead the life of a hermit, right? Who doesn't want to be a part of the whatever present day modern society.
So, no, hardly a troglodyte, but I would say that there is just not enough time to kind of do anything aside from job plus book plus baby. So it's that. And I mean, when I started out, it was when my first book offer came to me by sheer luck more than anything else. I used to write a blog, if you remember, which I still do. And so an editor had read my blog post and thought I could write a funny novel on advertising. So she kind of approached me. That's how the first book happened. Then second book, my daughter had just been born. And the thing is, being a full-time mother is, great and very fulfilling, and all the other stuff that they tell you it was going to be, but it is also intellectually extremely boring, because you're essentially just doing the same 8 things over and over and over again. Right? I will not get into what those 8 things are, but I think everybody knows. So I needed something to occupy my mind while I was doing, the general duties of motherhood. So, which is how I started thinking of this story, and then it kind of took legs and it started running around in my head like a mad thing. So then I said, I may as well write it down before I go completely bananas. And then, of course, everybody rejected it. Like every publishing house in India rejected it. So for 2 years, I was just in this nice private hell wondering, am I really that bad? Like, do I suck as a writer? Should I just stop now? Etc. 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 But then HarperCollins came along and they bought the book. And then, that only kind of egged me to do this all over again, which is how we have reached a point where my third book has come out.
Okay, so let me ask what could possibly be a cliche question, but, the sort of the shift from being an advertising copywriter, where you're writing a script for a 30-second TV commercial, or a video, online video, like 2 minutes is considered by people in this profession to be that's long format. So that, and then from that to a book, to a novel, how do you make the shift? Because you make the shift back and forth, right? Because you work in an advertising job, you write books on the side, or I don't know whether you write novels and you work in advertising on the side. These are
only
mind kind of questions.
No, I'm very much working full time and also writing books
full
on the side. But yeah, but no. So okay, it's interesting you should ask this, because being in advertising and writing short format for so long has actually been excellent training for writing novels, because there is no space for self-indulgence, right? Like, I mean, if I'm reading a paragraph and I'm bored by the 5th line, that has to go, right? Because I mean, that's how we've been trained as advertisers, that, you either your headline is arresting enough or it's time for a new headline. Right? Either you've made your point in 40 words, or it's gone. Like, I mean, no one has that kind of attention span. And that's also increasingly true of audiences in general. Right? So given the genre that I write in, I don't have time to bore people. So in that sense, I have to make every word count. I have to write only what the reader needs to know at that point of time. And if I can make it interesting, hey, that's great. That's a bonus. But actually, working in advertising has worked very well in my favor when it comes to writing books. Except for one small thing, which is that I tend to dramatically underwrite. So because we have been trained to kind of write 30-second commercial scripts, which is just like, either all story or all dialogue. So for me, I could very easily write an entire novel in dialogue if it had to. But then I'm like, but maybe I should kind of tell them that this is happening in a room and it has walls. And there are other people present here. So it's the descriptive stuff that I struggle with a little bit. But mostly, I think writing for advertising is great training to be a novelist.
The imaginary reader that is he or she a foreigner? Is he or she an Indian from another part of the country whom you feel that your footnotes, for example, need to explain a few things to? What do you have? Who's that idealized? Like in advertising, people are taught to have an idealized target audience.
Yes.
Who's usually Geeta from Gorakhpur for some reason or the other, or used to be. So what do you keep in mind? Who is the person that you're talking to?
See,
or does it shift?
No, it doesn't shift. I write for Indian readers principally, but I like to think that I'm not alienating any foreign readers. And it's interesting you should mention the footnotes, because for the last book, I had sent it out to Ben Aronovich to have a blurb from him. And he, as you know, he used to be a writer on Doctor Who. He's written the Rivers of London books. And I had sent it to his assistant. So she said that I will definitely get him to read it, but do you mind if I read it as well? Because it sounds interesting. I said, yeah, please feel free. And she wrote back saying, you know what, I really enjoyed all the explanations on Indian life and culture, because that really helped me get a very comprehensive picture of the book. So that way, I write mostly for Indian readers, but with the footnotes and all, I think I'm not leaving anybody out. I'm going for the broad target audience.
Great.
Universal appeal.
Do you have pet peeves about the way that people, Indians in particular, use English? Are there certain mistakes which you find really grating? Do you at times feel like, I have to tell you that I have this urge at times when somebody's speaking to edit their sentences. So do you have that? What are the kind of things that you...
So this is really
a
Pandora's box, but
I know.
I will not give too many examples, but I think the one that is really gets my goat is the word revert. Right? Like in professional emails, kindly revert by the end of the day. And I'm like, revert to what? A different life form? Like, what are you talking about? So, and in this kind of, need to sound professional, we are like resorting to so much jargon. Just say, get back to us by the end of the day. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to kind of sound.
And revert is like, the Frog Prince could be an example, right? Like there was a prince who was turned into a frog. And then when the spell was broken, he turned back into a prince. So he reverted
into a prince.
To being a prince.
Exactly.
If you freeze water in your freezer and it becomes an ice cube, when it melts, it reverts to water.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. But on an email, you shouldn't revert. So I always wonder that when you say, I'll revert to you, God forbid you're going to turn into me and then revert back, which is like revert means turn back, and so revert back means turn back into something or something.
Like reply back is another culprit. Like of course you're replying, the back is implied.
But do you think that's a translation of something in an Indian language? Reply back.
Nothing comes to the mind. I think it's just like this really sincere attempt to sound professional, which I appreciate, but you're getting it wrong, Fred. You're really getting it wrong.
Yeah. I like the dripping sarcasm in your tone, the appreciate.
I'm trying to be diplomatic because this entire reputation of sarcasm is just like, preceding me wherever I go, and I only see bad things in the future. So I'm being diplomatic, saying
You,
that I appreciate the intent.
I noticed on Instagram that you quoted this British writer called Hilary Mantel, where she
Yes.
says, "I think writers need tolerant people around them. They're prickly and strange and needy, yet they demand to be left alone." So, is that something that really that you can really relate to?
Yeah, because like when I'm writing, I'm completely immersed in it. So I have written in a Starbucks, I have written on my phone in a moving train, because when I'm writing, I'm writing. So it doesn't matter what's happening around me. But if there are like some 15 interruptions in that, then like, it really sets me on edge. So when I'm writing, I really do like to be left alone. But once I'm done writing, I just want people to come and shower me with praise and validation. Oh, you're so funny. Oh, you're such a great time. That's all I want to hear afterwards. But when I'm writing, like, no, please, it's fine. I just want to say, I really did relate with that. Yes. I love fans. Like without fans, please, like what would I be
What's
doing?
life?
No, not what's life, but see, I mean, it's when you're a writer, it implies an audience, right? It's not like you're just writing in your journal for yourself. If you're a published author, you want people to read your books. And I have had fans writing to me and I adore them because they are so sweet and they they like really write and say that I enjoyed it so much, and it made me smile on a day I was feeling glum, and it makes me feel amazing that I can do that for people. So I'm not being a celebrity. I'm just saying that like no interruptions when I'm writing. Please, maaf karo.
So but have you also had creepy fan mail, like where it actually made you think that this could be a topic for your next sequel?
No, yeah, everybody is being quite kind that way. So nothing creepy. I've got some terrible reviews from various people saying that this is a pointless waste of time, but they are entitled to their opinions. So
Of course, we've been talking a lot about Marathi and Hindi being translated into a chutneyfied English, but in Mumbai or Bombay, Bandra has a certain, I don't know, it has a certain sheen to it as being a certain kind of neighborhood where people aspire to live. And it's almost impossible unless you're a millionaire or you're willing to live in an 8 foot by 6 foot room. So what is Bandra all about?
It's not Bandra, first of all, it's Bandra.
Bandra.
There is no A. There's no second A in Bandra. There's just Bandra. I think it's just because Bandra has some really pretty houses. And like you said, if you can afford those pretty houses, you must be pretty much loaded. So it is how a certain economic class of people speaks as a whole, right? So I think, the closest comparison, I think, is how all these stand-up comedians talk about South Delhi girls saying "daya," and that is essentially it, for Bandra. Also, it's all very, what is this? Yeah, and it's that stuff. Otherwise, I don't think it's like and you'll find that in townies also. So I think it's more about the economic class rather than the geography that's kind of, affecting the speech.
Veda, we've talked about your books. We've talked about other authors who've employed chatnification. I'd like to know which book you're reading right now, and apart from that, also any other writers whom you read and find really inspirational.
So I'm actually caught between two books right now. I'm reading A Big Boy Did It and Ran Away, which is a book by Christopher Brookmyre, who is incidentally one of the writers that I find really inspirational. He writes Scottish noir fiction, which is also very funny and very, it's a thriller and there's lots of action, but it's also extremely hilarious. So he has managed that balancing act superbly. And I generally tend to pick his books up pretty often. I also got gifted a hardcover of Pride and Prejudice for my birthday. So I am rereading it, and it's two completely different worlds to be in at the same time, but I'm enjoying that. So that is about what I'm reading right now. So authors that I really enjoy reading and find inspirational as well are Terry Pratchett, Neil Gaiman, Christopher Brookmyre, Ben Aronovich. Then there's Leanne Moriarty and Sarah Waters. There's also Paula Hawkins. So it's a mix. I generally go for either crime/thriller books, or then I like historical fiction as well. If it's both, then it's like just mind blowing.
There's a question that I get asked a lot, that people who have started out reading, they're just about they read well, but they've not really read a lot of novels. They've not read a lot of long fiction. And, they ask me what to recommend books that they should start with. So is there anything in particular that you could think of in that category?
See, I would recommend starting with popular fiction, because one of the things that people make the mistake of doing is that they dive straight into literary fiction. And then they find it a little slow, or, like a little difficult to kind of sustain their attention doing that. And then they lose all joy for reading. But that is sort of like, skydiving before, like, trying to jump off like small steps and like cliffs and stuff. So I would suggest that pick up pop fiction if you have to. If it's something that you find interesting, if the story premise is something you find interesting, go ahead and read it. And then once you find your love of reading, then graduate to other authors in more difficult forms of reading, or then whatever, get into magic realism or War and Peace if you have like a lot of time on your hands. But yeah, I would say like start with genre fiction, start with pop fiction. They're easy reads.
So start with something like this, right?
Why not? That's an excellent suggestion, Toronto. Why didn't I think of that? Yes, please start with that.
I think you were being uncharacteristically bashful about it, so I thought. So Vedashree Khambete-Sharma, you've got a double-barrel surname.
I do.
That's so fancy.
Extremely.
Yeah, and one of the things I've noticed is just as in your own life, your character's life also, there's this thing about the North Indian, the love interest. So that probably explains the second part of your double-barrel surname. And,
See, it is a very misleading surname, because his home atmosphere is entirely Maharashtrian, and like a friend pointed out that anything Punjabi that was there has probably by now drowned in an ocean of Baran, which is like curry. So yeah, it is a little misleading, but yeah, I had actually not thought of it till you pointed out that her love interest is also North Indian. Yeah. But yes, I guess
like Dhruv, Yeah, but tell me something. Will Avantika Pandit ever get together with Uday?
That would be telling, no, Shumo.
Yeah.
But I reveal that.
That's true.
We will just have to read the next one and find out.
Yeah, we will do that. So it was wonderful talking to you, Veda. It was wonderful reading your book. And so I just want to encourage everybody to read Veda's book, the latest one or one of the earlier ones. And also, if there are any aspiring writers out there, I'm hoping that this is going to inspire them to also dive in, not wait for when you can take a sabbatical, or not because I think that you have to write while life is happening around you, and that probably keeps you inspired. And it is tough, but Veda has proved that you can do it, and you can do it well. So congratulations on your latest book.
Thank you.
And here's to many more. Thank you so much. All the best, and I'm looking forward to the next one as well.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
I'm
the English nut.
Bye.
Bye.
For now.
For now.